beyond converting the clients who are landing there, but it's saying, is there functionality that we can build into it that can enhance the sales process for if you have a sales team that's going out into the field? Welcome back to Marketing from X to Z, your podcast about digital marketing for small businesses. And we're your hosts.
I'm Liz Bachman with Wildflower Social Media.
And I'm Mike Albuquerque with Bear Double. Now, Liz, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about some of our favorite marketing strategies and tactics we used in 2025.
Fun. Okay, 2025. All right. At this point, we are in February of 2026, which feels like,
A lot.
feels
It
like a
feels like a
lot.
lot.
Yeah. But it's also kind of cool because we now have had a little bit of time to reflect on the previous year,
Yeah.
right? And it was a busy year. There's a lot of things going on. And like every year in entrepreneurship, it's different, right? And I think when I look back at some of the things that I did that worked best, had the best results for my clients, there were some trusted old strategies. There's some new things that I tried that were a little bit different. And it was all over. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. There were some things that I have done in a similar structured fashion across the board, but then there were also several things that we tried that were new that worked really well. So I'm excited to share.
All right. So let's get into it. Should I kick us off?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I'm going to share one of the things that I shifted, and it was something in my business, but that affected my clients, right? So I created a package that was a lower entry point package of websites for clients. And the rationale behind that is I wanted something that my clients could have to start creating their digital presence, right? Even if it's a small business, solopreneur, side hustle, or they're testing the waters, it makes sense to start early and to start with something that you can build and grow with your business. So I put together a package for them that was started with a one-page website and developed a content structure there to where things could be organized in a way that someone who lands on that page, they're not going to think that they're getting a lesser than experience, right? They're still getting all the things they need. They're getting the information about the business, they're understanding the process, the services or product offering. They're seeing the face, right, of the entrepreneur who they're dealing with.
Right.
They're getting all the contact info. They understand how to follow up. So it's that beginning of that like professional uh, digital experience, right, to create the footprint. And it's something that I've had a few clients go on that package down. They're super happy with it, especially because we built it in a way that they could grow with it in the future. So it's not like when they choose to like grow to their bigger website, they need to trash everything. They can continue to build on it.
Yeah, it's stackable, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. It's a website that grows with you.
Yeah, no, that's so, and that came about because you were interacting with more small businesses that needed a lower budget. Or like, why did you start?
So budget did drive some of this conversation, and it was also like just kind of dipping the toe, right?
Okay.
They don't necessarily want to commit on maybe they don't have all their services figured out to a level where we can speak about it in depth, right? Maybe they just need more to like list the service, and it's more on a case by case, or they need to try this service out with a specific client or a customer to be able to build it out a little bit.
Okay, so just like so basically the getting started, the don't wait until you have all of the things, just like kind of the ability to start messy but still show up professional.
Yeah, and I had done things similarly before, but it was when there was a phased approach, right? Where we knew we were going to launch a bigger site, but we needed something right away and we didn't have all the things we need. So, hey, let's get a one page up and then we'll keep adding to it and then we'll transform the page. But then this was the case for like when we launched this new package, the idea was even if you don't know that you want to take those next steps now, let's go ahead with the first step.
Okay, yeah, I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So that was number one for me. I mean, that was.
I mean, I guess yeah, it makes your services more accessible, and it also gives you another product line to run with. So
Yeah.
it's a win-win.
Differentiate it a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. I think that my favorite and one that I've been like folding in a couple of different ways for different clients has been producing serialized social media content.
Yes.
So what I mean by that is creating short form social media videos that are supposed to go in a specific order, like one after the other.
Hmm.
So I've done like a micro version of this that's like only 7 videos, and that actually performed extremely well for the client that I did that for. And then we've also done ones where we basically stacked it for the entire month.
Hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, that's a really heavy lift. Getting that number of videos out
Hmm.
in the correct order, edited without any sort of delay. Like, obviously, this is what we do for a living, so it was fine. But like, I would start with something if I were saying, "Hey, you should do this," which I guess is what I am doing.
Hmm.
Then I would start with maybe like 5 videos that are stacked in a series and see how
Yeah.
that goes,
Hmm.
and kind of get some of the data from that and then reiterate on it. But it's interesting because you can do it in a couple different ways, and there are quite a few creators who have done
Hmm.
series as well.
Series
What?
is
Close enough. It's fine. It's all good. It's
new words. Marketing comes up with new words all the time.
Yikes. All right. Okay. Back on track. So basically, creating a video that you're teasing the next one that's coming at the tail end of the first one. So the people who
Hmm.
actually watched it all the way are excited for your next drop.
Hmm.
So
And is that something that came from like kind of observing some trends or seeing like performance? Did you stumble upon it?
yeah, so I mean, it came from watching trends and like
Uh-huh.
watching what some people who were growing readily were doing.
Hmm.
So it came from that, and also from wanting to hold me and honestly my clients to a little bit of structure
Hmm.
as well. So
Yeah.
kind of working on it in that way helped.
Yeah, I can see how building the structure ahead of time and knowing what you're aiming for, right?
Hmm.
And that just probably makes that process of developing the content as you're going from having like that pure blank page every time to now it's like, okay, we know the theme. We're building a theme, step one, step two, step three,
Yeah,
and so forth.
exactly.
And I like the number, I like to mention number five because that feels like something that's not overwhelming.
Hmm.
And it's also something that allows room for course correction if needed,
Hmm.
right? You put five up and so just not getting the response you want, you can adjust, you can tweak.
Yes, absolutely. Now, one thing that's different now, like in 2026,
Hmm.
than the way that I ran some of these series is about halfway through 2025, is the way that I would go about the hooks is a little bit different. So I
Hmm.
definitely, because at that point in 2025, there was a lot more tolerance for the direct preachy teachy sort of energy.
Hmm.
Whereas now I would be focusing a little bit more on hooks that draw people in. So like something along the lines of I like let me tell you a secret, or
Uh-huh.
like like
Yeah.
that like more personal pull in was not. I mean, it would have been good in 2025 to have leveraged that, but
Hmm.
now it's more than just it would have been good. Like, it's a necessity.
Okay.
Hmm.
Nice. So next one for me is using your website as a tool for the business.
Hmm.
And what I mean is beyond the marketing, beyond converting the clients who are landing there, but it's saying, is there functionality that we can build into it that can enhance the sales process for if you have a sales team that's going out into the field, or if you have something that you're doing in terms of operation
Hmm.
that can be done better with the
Hmm.
help of the website, building that in there. And I'll give an example. Like there's a client of mine who works with a lot of well-known brands
Hmm.
and on several different projects, but they're not projects that they felt comfortable with sharing directly.
Okay.
So our, uh, we started having a discussion because they do share those projects
Hmm.
when they're engaging with leads,
Hmm.
but they almost like have to tell them about it or pull up photos on their phone or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, what if we build either like a password protected page on the site or a page that's not indexed by Google where you can tell that story,
Hmm.
right? Instead of like sending them a PDF with a case study, which is where the conversation initially started, why don't we build this on the site and just make it private?
Yeah.
And that, they just lit up when we started talking about this. And we're like, that's a great idea. So, it just brings the functionality of the website to a different level for that business.
Yeah, it's more being used for more than one thing.
Exactly. And there's a lot of like similar things like that can be done. Like if you have a business that has like different assets that need to be shared with clients, I mean, you can do client login areas, or you can do like an asset library and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like those projects are always really fun because it's when the site becomes more than just a marketing tool, right? It's an
Hmm.
operational tool as well.
Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's really, really cool. It kind of reminds me of something that I've been talking about with, this is not a from 2025 thing, but something I've been discussing with a prospect.
Hmm.
We're just trying to decide if it's actually feasible with their bandwidth and resources. But they are working in a very specific space that people don't understand at all.
Hmm.
Like, it's so specific that I unfortunately I cannot mention it because I have
Uh-huh.
not closed with them. But
Yeah. Hmm.
but what it is they're so specific that people don't understand even like the terms to use around what they could be how they could be benefiting. So we're
Okay.
talking about creating a social media campaign that's education based. That's basically, I
Uh-huh.
mean, there is like a use for doing like FAQs and like
Hmm.
making sure that you've answered FAQs in your content and do that on a regular basis.
Hmm.
So you can like send videos to clients. Or actually, that
Yeah.
is something I did last year for
Uh-huh.
one of my attorney clients. Is we did that with some of their more like what is probate and how long does it take and
Uh-huh.
like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like using your marketing as a tool that is not just for marketing.
That makes sense. I mean, there's like I've worked in fields where we have to do category education
Mm-hmm.
before. And it's not just product education on the product or service you're offering, but
This is what
you
that would be.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, where, and it's a challenge, right? But I mean, there's ways for you to go methodically about that so that you can get the conversation going and train the audience to understand what it is that you're talking about
Yeah.
before you introduce that product or service.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's a cool one.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really interesting. I'll
Yeah.
talk to you more about it offline, but we'll loop back if they become a client.
It's there we go.
But yeah, so in a sort of similar vein, like we have done, God, I've done so many different interesting projects with clients that I've had for a long time. Last year I didn't have a ton of new
Hmm.
clients, but I think one of them that was very, very, very interesting was leveraging our email newsletter. So part of the
Uh-huh.
reason that it keeps coming up in these episodes, like out of my mouth,
Hmm.
is because I have three different two clients and myself, like my business, where we started leveraging just your like newsletters, but not if you just like any other type of marketing, if you create oh, look at this like new billboard of all the things that are new with me, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I don't even think my mom would read that all the way about my business at this point. Like I like not in a rude way to my mom, but like it's just like what's in it for them? Like why do
Hmm.
they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when I started creating, I started sharing these newsletters, and I would share basically a little blurb on like things you need to know on social media this week.
Uh-huh.
Because there's so much stuff that changes all the
Yeah.
time, and as a business owner, you don't need to know all of it. It's
Hmm.
really easy to feel like you need to know all of it. You don't. There's
Yeah.
only a couple of things that are actually relevant to you. So I added that like value pack part, and then I actually added like our podcast,
Uh-huh.
and then a dog I was fostering, which that's probably not the best marketing material. I just really needed that dog adopted, which she
Which
has
happened,
been.
right?
But yeah, I
Yeah.
am fosterless right now.
Okay.
But the leveraging of newsletter, every single time I sent one out, I got at least 2 or 3 emails back going, "Hey, it's been a while since we talked. I think we need to sit down because I may have a blank."
Hmm.
So that's incredibly valuable,
Yeah.
especially when like my engagements are typically, $2,000 or recurring $1,000+ like
Hmm.
retainers, like 2 to 3 opportunities. That's a very high
Yeah.
value return on something that probably took me an hour to put together.
Uh-huh.
And there's a similar thing with I talked about Out Georgia in
Hmm.
one of our earlier episodes, and um, we found that one of the primary pain points that people were having is they just didn't know what anything was.
Hmm.
They knew we were doing things, but they just didn't know where anything was. So, and we had already had it on our socials, and we'd already had it on our website. But we started sending in addition to the newsletter, the weekly blast.
I see. Yeah.
For that, like,
Uh-huh.
because we were listening to the what's in it and like what's in it for that, what are they actually
Hmm.
looking for, so it didn't have all like the grant stuff and the fluffy like you should join this because no, it was literally, hey, you want to do some stuff this week without bup, bup, bup.
There you go. Yeah.
So which I don't know, was just something different that I really enjoyed, and I thought we had a pretty good return on the
Hmm.
time spent on that.
And you make it simple, and people
Hmm.
react to it and engage
Exactly.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I've done in the past, and I mean we've both done in different realms, right? But it's like developing like longer form content that then you break into shorter
Hmm.
form. One of the things that I did this year for one of my clients was as the content was being built, the longer form, we built it to be broken down in shorter pieces,
Hmm.
which is sounds like it's the same thing, but it's a little bit of a different mindset
Hmm.
in how it's created. Specifically, taking something like a blog post, right, and knowing that hey, I want this blog post to turn into emails and to turn into uh, uh, carousels or social media shares or videos or these different assets, and understanding that it's as opposed to trying to take a longer written article and then shoehorn it into these smaller pieces. It was almost like building it backwards
Hmm.
to where the blog was very much written in a way that we have these little pieces that we can pull from
Yeah.
and creating several different things. And so that was fun because we started then taking that content and from a longer form to the email, and then taking some pieces of it and diving deeper in certain messaging pieces that we put together for like training or for some in-person presentations and
Hmm.
whatnot. And it became a really neat experience from like one piece of content. We're creating smaller but also sometimes deeper
I love that.
content.
I love that.
And so I think that's, I mean, we've talked a lot about like strategies to create content and reuse it and, knock it.
Maximize the time that you put into the thing,
Yeah.
or maximize what you get out of the time you put into the thing. Yeah.
And the main thing was like the process we developed for this was to where like the client who is the expert, right, just had to sit down and put their thoughts into creating the initial asset, which was not the blog, but it was like a write-up of their thoughts. And in the stage of AI where everything is the same, it was like, no, you need to insert your opinion here.
Yes.
This needs to have a strong point of view,
Hmm.
not necessarily a divisive or inclusive point of view, but it needs to have a point of view, a perspective, something that's personal. And then when we did that, it took us a little bit of adjustment to come up with what that formula was, but it became pretty powerful. Now it's part of a key strategy that we're going to follow.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Um, yeah, that's a little bit like I will I've done something similar with long form videos and turning them
Hmm.
into shorter form videos and that
Uh-huh.
sort of thing, which I think has been really, really interesting. Um, Kind of pivoting away from content, and one of the things is, so I added meta advertising to my
Hmm.
deck for this for 2025 things that I was offering, and there were quite a few different techniques that or like methodologies that I used with
Uh-huh.
this. Um, so one of them is cliently share,
Uh-huh.
right? And we started running instant form lead ads, and they were static ads, and frankly, they were pretty low effort ads
Hmm.
because we were just kind of testing the waters to see if it would
Yeah,
work. And I mean, you remember, it worked.
it worked pretty well. It worked very well.
Yeah, but we were highlighting just very specifically the benefits and then having a
Hmm.
lead capture form, which then went over to, so it was an instant form, so it auto populated.
Hmm.
So it really reduced the friction of collecting that initial set of information. And
Yeah.
then they went into an application. So the application for this client, for the people to join, it has a little bit of friction to it because it requires some documentation,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so if you just saw an ad on Facebook, you may not necessarily have all the things you need right in front of you to submit said thing.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we had the instant form where we collected the information, but then we also sent them an email with the application in addition to
Hmm.
linking them to the application
Yeah.
and added them to our email list. So we created this entire like ecosystem
Hmm.
of being able to follow up and double down on that, which is one of the reasons it worked so well,
Yes.
and will continue to work
And worked
because
on a lot of different levels too.
yeah, yeah.
Not just from like driving application, driving event attendance, but also giving like a pool of, leads to communicate with.
Yes, exactly. So that was really, really good. And then we also, in another form of leads, we did a paid, I did a different, I had a, for a different client, I had a paid lead magnet.
Hmm.
And it was actually like not the cheapest thing in the world. It
Uh-huh.
was a couple $100.
Yeah.
And we have found over time that that lead magnet, people buy it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're invested because it's a thing. I mean, it's high enough that, like, is it even really a lead magnet at this point?
Mm-hmm.
But it is.
Yeah.
And then we have a pitch into a program.
Mm-hmm.
And because they've already invested, it's easier to get somebody to say yes once they've already said yes. That's
Yeah.
why when you're on a sales call, people keep asking you like no-brainer questions to get you say the word yes. They're doing that because the more you say yes, the more likely you are to say yes later. They're tricking you. But it's the same sort of idea. If they said yes, they said yes. So now we're having a higher conversion rate into this program. And it's a really, really, and that's been really effective too. So just like playing with meta advertising and looking at two very different worlds for it
Yeah.
that's been big for me this year.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I got to try at the very tail end of the year was I had a client who operates in a very crowded industry,
Mm.
right? And one of the things that I like doing is any client I work with, it's all about how do we differentiate you? How do we, if you're a referral based business, right, and that's how you're gonna get your leads. How do I get someone to call you versus the other person they were also referred to?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I call that business versus the other business. And in this case, there's always a lot about like the personality and who your target market is, who you're speaking to. But in some industries that are really crowded, that's not enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need to find other ways to differentiate yourself. And in this case, we did it through hyper localization,
Okay. Yeah.
and specifically focusing not just on cities, but on very specific neighborhoods in town,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to then bring this client's perspective on each one of the neighborhoods, provide some information that yes was purposely built to where we knew what's going to resonate with SEO, what's going to resonate with AI tools out there,
Mm-hmm.
but bring their unique perspective. That was the part that was so important because that ties in with getting found on AI searches and all that. And we that became the cornerstone of the strategy we're going to follow. And it was all about how do we go deeper into like what would be perceived as very small space,
Mm-hmm.
but you do it into enough of those and you start building a strategy around that, right? You can become the go-to person in a certain area.
Okay. I like that. I think
Yeah.
that's good. And that's a lot. We've covered like a large span of different topics
Mm-hmm.
within
Yeah.
what marketing things that we've enjoyed in
Yeah.
2025. I think that's very, very cool because I mean it's everything from content marketing and blog to social media serial
Mm-hmm.
marketing to email to SEO and hyperlocalization. Like I mean to meta advertising, like that's one of the really fun but also very overwhelming things about
Mm-hmm.
marketing is there's so many different channels you can go down, and
Yeah.
unless you're one of us marketing nerds, it gets to be a little bit a lot of different things to look at.
Exactly.
So how would you like, because we just listed off a bunch of different ideas,
Mm-hmm.
is there a specific industry or a specific way, like if we thought about which of these ideas we might have somebody try, because trying all of them across so many different spans is going to be really overwhelming in
Yeah.
one period of time. So when you think about like different industries that we've spoken to recently, maybe, or just like tend to,
Mm-hmm.
which one of these would you have them start with?
I think I don't know if it's necessarily a strategy, but just
Uh-huh.
I mean, I talked a little bit about perspective,
Uh-huh.
right? And how do what is your unique perspective on something? I think that is about to become so much more important.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I would lean on is like if you're gonna be, if you're gonna be investing in your marketing
Mm-hmm.
for your business, make sure that your perspective is clear, right? That what your principles are, who you're speaking to, how are you approaching a certain service or a certain product. Um,
I completely agree with that. I went to a networking event earlier this week.
mhm,
Earlier this week, I think it was, and we did our thing, but then we didn't have our speaker wasn't able to show up, so we
uh-huh,
did like roundtable questions about things, and one of the questions was, what is like one business principle that like you or like one business thing that you will not compromise on?
mhm,
And I had never met most of the people in the room. And what I explained was like, I mandate that you go through the social media strategy process before you start with management. And I
Mm-hmm.
outlined exactly why we do that and that sort of thing. And it was very interesting because I watched all of these like click
Uh-huh.
because I took a perspective and explained it. And so even
Yeah.
like in-person marketing, it like I can tell that that's something that I need to be iterating more on my online marketing because
Mm-hmm.
they learned so much about the difference and also how my industry works just by me taking a stance instead of
Yeah.
going, I do social media strategy management consulting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is how this works. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because I mean that's something that's very different, right? I mean, it could be that there's other, other social media agencies out there that are like, yes, yes, we don't need the strategy piece. We'll just do the management part, and then you fall flat,
Yeah.
right? And by you taking that stand of saying we need to do the strategy, that means I want you to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
right? As a client, I want you to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to start here. So listen to the expertise, and that's a strong perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's going to be one of those things that makes me stand out. And
Hmm.
I think finding that thing in your industry,
Yes.
like I agree, finding that thing
Hmm.
in your industry that like you stand on is going to be really, really strong.
Yeah.
AI can't determine, sorry, AI shouldn't determine your principles. Shouldn't say can't, shouldn't determine.
Yeah, there's
Oh.
so many dystopic movies just came in my head right now. The AI making choices for us.
Liz derails the conversation right at the
Yeah.
end.
But so that brings us to a wrap.
Yeah.
Those are our favorite strategies of 2025.
Yeah.
We're going to be diving deeper into some of them in coming episodes. But if you have a strategy you'd like to hear us talk more about it, please comment below or send us an email. Visit xzzpod.com.
Mhm.
That's where we are.
It is. Bye.
Till next time.